All right, Jacob. On this day in 2001, the Detroit Lions got their one win on the season against the Minnesota Vikings. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It sounds really familiar. I didn't realize they've been that bad for that long. They had one win in 2001.
That's what it says.
Well, if there's one thing you can count on, apparently it's the Lions to not win games.
And the one win to come against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, welcome all to the Lowing Brothers podcast. For today, we'll be talking about bowl games we look forward to, Urban Meyer being fired, what if the Bucks won their last NBA championship with all the injuries that were happening in the league, and our favorites to win the NFL conferences. But to start the show, I'd like to introduce our very first guest ever, Alex Abrahamson, a.k.a. Big Papa Baldy. He's a good friend of mine from high school, still great friends today. Alex, why don't you give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Hey guys, first I'd just like to thank you for sharing your platform with me and having me on. So currently I'm a senior at North Dakota State University, studying general agriculture. After graduation, I plan on taking over the farm and ranch eventually. And I guess just a little bit about me, I'm a cattle, cannabis, and college football enthusiast.
Cannabis enthusiast, you gotta love to hear that. The old Lazy Bar Ranch. Ooh, I'm sure it's still going well after I left it.
Barely holding on, but
Barely holding on.
Barely, yeah.
But so to start this off, now, Alex, last week, Jacob and I we discussed on last Monday our top 6 for college football playoffs, who we think maybe the best teams are, maybe the favorites to win, or just the best teams in college overall. We were definitely split on that. I think to start the show, we want to hear your opinion, who you think the committee's top 6 is, maybe who you think the best 6 are. You can take over however you want. Just because Jake and I were so split on that, just to hear another person's opinion, I think would be great.
Okay, so I'll start at the top. And my top 4 are the same as the college football playoff ranking committee. So first Alabama, second Michigan, third Georgia, and fourth Cincinnati. I think that these teams, they really make sense. Alabama winning the SEC championship, Michigan winning the Big Ten, and their respective schedules. Georgia going undefeated throughout the regular season and losing to number 1 Alabama, and then Cincinnati's undefeated season. I really think that the college football playoff committee got those right. I don't see there being based on the schedules and how they played this year, I have no problem with that as the top 4. However, after that, I have a hard time thinking that those are really even the top 4 college football teams if we had like a larger bracket. But at number 5, I have Utah. The reason I have Utah is because they lost some games early. They lost to San Diego State before Rising came into the game. He came into the game with about 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and they ended up losing a close one. And they had a close loss to a tough Oregon State team, and they lost another one earlier in the year. But I think that after they really turned it around, and I think they're playing really hot right now, just clapping the cheeks of the Oregon Ducks, both the second to last game of the regular season and then in the PAC championship. And so I think that they are probably, to me, I would give them, they're probably the 4th best team to me in college football right now. But I think that I put them at 5 for this exercise. And then at number 6, I have Ole Miss. I think they play that tough SEC schedule. I think they're also hot. With the loss against Auburn, I think that was a lot because of Corral's injury, and then the loss to Alabama, which is that I think that they're the best team in college football. But I do think that Ole Miss is a very good football team, and so that's kind of my thinking behind my personal top 6.
Jacob,
I want to start out with.
Did you hear this, man?
It is very clear that you are a cannabis connoisseur. That's all I'm going to say. You're really going to put Utah and Ole Miss above Baylor?
Yeah, I'm just not really impressed with Baylor's strength of schedule. Granted, the win against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship was big, but other than that, I think that Utah and Ole Miss are better than them right now. Granted, I would argue, like for the college football playoff ranking committee, that they probably should be seated right. But if we were playing in like a 16-team playoff, I do think that Utah and Ole Miss are both better than Baylor, and they would beat them if they played head to head.
I'm okay with your Ole Miss at 6. I'm fine with it. Like I said, I don't think that one of their losses with Corral injured, I don't think that loss necessarily happens. I mean, you never know. It still could. But the Utah at 5, I know they're playing tough right now, and they beat Oregon twice back-to-back. That's very impressive. And they killed them. It wasn't like they barely beat them. They killed them both times. But, like, with 3 losses on the season, how can you put someone at 5 when they have 3 losses? I don't care how hot you are at the end of the season.
And so that's where I kind of find a difference between who I think the top 6 football teams are in college football right now versus how the committee should rank them. Yes, I think you can make an argument that Utah probably would be at 8 or 9. But I do think that they are playing top 5 college football, right? Or top 5 quality college football teams right now. I think that they'd be very tough. But then again, yes, you have to rank them. I think that they'd be better than Cincinnati, but of course, the college football ranking, there's no reason for Cincinnati not to be in the top 4. So that's kind of the reasoning for that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said on Monday, me personally, if I'm being what my personal thought, I don't think Cincinnati might be in the top 4, in my opinion. But like I said, that's probably just me, the whole bias of everyone, that they're not in a Power 5 conference. So, but of course you have to put them in. You have to, because they're undefeated. Granted, they won their conference. Granted, it wasn't a Power 5 conference. They beat Notre Dame. Like, you have to put them in. But I kind of agree with you. I don't think they're one of the best 4 teams. I don't know what Jacob thinks about that, but
looks like it to me. I mean, I put them at number 1 for a reason.
Yeah, you did. Well, and speaking of number 1, Abe, if you had to just guess, you have to give us a prediction who you think is going to win here. Who do you think is going to win the college football playoffs? And
I think Alabama.
Alabama. Do you think they're playing Georgia or Michigan?
I think Alabama is going to beat Michigan.
So Michigan wins against Georgia.
Michigan is playing well, and like Jacob mentioned last week, that they were just maybe a couple calls that didn't go their way, and a couple plays that they could have made to really flip that Michigan State game. I think Michigan's probably the second best team in college football right now, and I think that they will beat Georgia, but they will lose to Alabama in the BCS championship.
Oh man, I must just be sitting here with my bias against Michigan then. I can't convince myself that they're that good. Just can't do it. But
what has Georgia done to prove that they're that good, other than their best win being against a team ranked number 19?
I mean, like I said last week, though, against number 19, they have other wins against they have 3 top 25 wins. I don't have my sheet with me right now to remember that. But like I said, I understand they lost the SEC championship, but to be able to go undefeated in the SEC, I think shows a lot, in my opinion. I understand you didn't win
top-heavy SEC, and they didn't play anyone in the top.
SEC is still the SEC. I'd take anyone in that. I'd take the middle pack SEC team against a middle pack Big Ten team any day. Okay. I think the conference is just that much harder, so I believe that to go undefeated in it is impressive, no matter who you want to say they didn't play Ole Miss and Alabama. I still think that's tough to do.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not tough. I'm just having a hard time seeing where they've proven to be a better team than anyone else in the top 4.
Well, you say who have they beaten? But I mean, like I put the stat last week. It was only by 1, but strength of schedule, according to ESPN, that Georgia had a tougher strength of schedule than Michigan. They were 20th and Michigan was 21st, but still, I mean, that's just a system or whatnot that shows that. But according to that, they had a tougher strength of schedule.
I mean, strength of schedule is just a metric of who have you played, not who have you actually won big games against, and that's my big metric. What about Alex? Chime in here. What's more important, your overall schedule being good or winning big games?
I think it's important to try to maybe to balance both of those. And so specifically, like in the cases that we're talking, especially about Georgia, it's really hard to like knock them out of fourth, even though they have only beat a top 19 team or a 19th ranked teams. But I think that SEC schedule top to bottom is really tough. I mean, they're not playing too many Conference USA teams. Which, if I would say, I think Alabama playing New Mexico State is nearly a crime, and that almost makes me knock them down to 2 that they started that game out down 3-0. But it's really a tough balancing act. I don't really know. I don't really have a great answer for that, I guess.
Thank you. Hear that? SEC, Jacob.
All right, whatever. I just disagree with that, but it's fine. I think your conference matters, but I mean your argument for is one team better than another shouldn't just be purely based on conference. But I'm not saying that. I'm gonna get us rolling. I want to talk about bowl games. What bowl games are you fellas looking forward to?
I'll let Alex take it first.
So earlier I mentioned that I thought Utah is probably a top 4 college football team right now, and so there's no other way to prove that other than playing Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. I think that there's a good chance that Ohio State's a really tough team. You could argue that they would be 7th in my ranking, but so if they can go out and beat Ohio State, I think that'll prove that they are a top 4 team, definitely top 5. And I'm really looking forward to that game to see how that game will turn out. I think it'll be a tight one. I have Utah by probably about a score.
Yeah, I think that'll be a very good game to watch. I believe. And me as an Ohio State fan, I'm hoping that we can go in there and kick butt to prove that. I think after that Michigan game and we lost to Oregon, I think people are like, well, maybe Ohio State isn't as good as, I know they're ranked 6th in the committee, but I think that'll be a good game to watch for sure. But I'm going to take over, and I'm going to say the game I am looking forward to is Baylor and Mississippi. Baylor, great season ending as Big 12 champions, being able to stop Oklahoma State on the goal line 4 plays, to go and play a Mississippi team like Alex said earlier, and I kind of agree with him that I think Mississippi is one of the better teams when Corral is on the field. So I think that's a interesting matchup between the Big 12 and an SEC. I don't know who I'm favoriting. I think Mississippi will win that game. I don't know by how much or whatnot, but that's definitely a game I'm looking forward to. Ohio State, Utah, Baylor, Mississippi, those are 2 great games I'm looking forward to. Now, that being said, Jacob, is there any other games besides those 2 that you think? In my opinion, I think those 2 are the best games. What are you saying? Are you agreeing with us that those are some of the best games to be watching?
I mean, those are going to be some of the best games to be watching, but the game at the top of my list is the Conference USA Mountain West Showdown, UTSA versus number 24 San Diego State University in the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. Boys, that's going to be a great battle between 2 great group of 5 teams. I think people are picking up on a trend here. I love the smaller schools. I think they do great with what they're given. I think the coaching is great. You have to be coached well in order to be successful when you're playing in one of those group of 5 conferences. These are 2 great, mid-tier college football teams. UTSA was hovering around that 24-25 mark for a couple weeks. They lost their last game of the regular season, but bounced back, won the Conference USA. San Diego State lost in the Mountain West title game, but that's no big deal. They're going to bounce back. This is going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it.
One thing I'd just like to slide in and mention, one thing that I'm watching is Brandon Brown on the UTSA defensive line. I'm expecting him to wreak havoc on the SDSU offense, and I'm really looking forward to him to have a big game.
Yeah, well, we all know between us three that Alex has been the biggest UTSA fan all year round. Having him text us in our group chat about UTSA, they're still undefeated, and then who they lose to? Was it Tulsa?
They lost to, I believe, North Texas, and it wasn't close. And I
No,
think
that's
North
what.
and I think North Texas won like 3 games.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, and I was pretty sad to watch that. But I guess that's the way it goes. Say la vie.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good bowl games looking forward to. I'm kind of curious after these bowl games what the final rankings and after all the championship games, the semi-playoff, who the top 10 in the nation are going to be more or less after the 4. Just kind of interested if Utah wins or Ohio State wins or Baylor wins or what the last 5 is. I think would be interesting to kind of see. Not that anyone really cares about that, but I think it's still cool to see how then rankings are. But moving forward, just like me, Alex Abrahamson, big Papa Baldy, I swear likes betting just about as much as I do. And not saying I bet all the time or anything, because North Dakota can't bet online or anything like that. So I only get up to the casino every now and then. But this week we have the pleasure, just because Jacob and I absolutely sucked last week, we are going to bring someone else and have Alex give us his betting locks of the week. And he might give us some betting locks for the college during the college bowl games as well. Take it away, Alex.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't like to tell you guys I told you so, but I was Broncos -10. I mean, that was the lock of last week. I'm telling you.
Oh, I disagree. I could have swore that was a lock. The Lions were hot after one win.
That's fair, Demarius Thomas. It was, but anyway. So one thing I'm looking forward to is the Deeks Pizza Bowl. Or no, I'm sorry. It's about the equivalent of the Deeks Pizza Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl. I'm looking for Clemson to take on the money line to beat Ohio State. Whenever I looked at the odds last time, they were even. I think that Clemson is one of the hotter teams in college football. I don't think that they're hot enough to be maybe ranked in the top 6 that I mentioned earlier, but I do think that they are hot, especially with the drubbing, about a 20-point clubbing of Wake Forest towards the end of the season. I think that if they would have been in the ACC championship game, I think they would have won. I think they would win a rematch against Pittsburgh. But I do think that they will beat a scrappy Iowa State team. And I think the betting odds are pretty favorable on that. I know they just lost the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, I believe, and an athletic director, but I still think that they are a very tough team to beat.
I do want to chime in here quick. I do agree with you. I think if Clemson did play in the ACC championship game, I do believe they would have won that. I do agree with that. They've played a lot tougher towards the end of the season. And I was going to correct you right away. You did say Ohio State, not Iowa State, but you corrected at the end, so didn't have to do that. Still had to bring it up, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My bad. They're playing Iowa State, a scrappy Iowa State team. Yeah, but I think that Clemson has an edge here. The other game that I'm watching is the Citrus Bowl, with Kentucky as 3-point favorites against Iowa. I am taking Kentucky on the spread in this game. I think that Iowa is probably the worst or second to worst team in the top 25. They have beat nobody. They have lost in big games big. And I think that Kentucky, with the backing of the strong SEC schedule, I think that they will beat Iowa handily. I don't think that it will. I could see Kentucky winning by at least 2 scores. And
Jacob,
those are the two games that I'm watching really closely upcoming here.
did you hear what he just said?
You guys
Iowa?
You guys are underrating Iowa.
About Iowa? Did I say the same thing last Monday? Iowa is an overrated team. They are not as good as their record and their rankings show. Thank you. My goodness. Someone's with me there. All right, Abe. Sorry, I had to
full
chime in.
disclosure, I have these bets locked in, and I am. This is not betting advice, but I am full disclosure. I do have these bets open at this time. So.
Yeah, you gotta be confident with them. Tell the people. Just like last week when Jacob and I was like, these are our bets, and they were all wrong. Now, I don't think Jacob or I got one game right because my Bengals screwed the pooch at the end. Oh, do you have any more college football, or do we got to get into these NFL games this week that you have locked up for us?
I'll be honest, guys. I like the Patriots. Last I looked, they were a 2-point underdogs to the Indianapolis Colts. I know we're going to talk about our favorites in the AFC later, but I think the New England Patriots should be in that discussion, and I do think the New England Patriots will defeat the Indianapolis Colts. I think the spread is the spread or the money line. I think would both be solid choices this week.
God bless your soul, taking a Patriots team right there. That must hurt deep down for you to say that too.
Yeah, I don't like saying that, but they're not playing the Broncos, so that's all that matters.
Well, how about that? You heard it here, folks. Alex Abrahamson giving you his locks for some of the college football bowl games. His lock of the week for NFL. I like the pick too. Like you said, I like the Patriots. They've been hot. They've won a lot of games in a row here, and I think that's a good pick. I believe so. But moving forward, then we're gonna have old Jacob tell us what he has for the upsets of the week. If he has one, he's gonna at least give us his most favorite one, and maybe give us a couple more. We'll see what he does here with it. But Jacob, I'm gonna give it to you. This is all you this week. Upsets of the week. What do you have?
My number one upset of the week. So last week I went with Houston over Seattle. This week I'm going to flip it around. I'm taking Seattle over the Rams this week. The Rams have 11 guys in COVID protocol at the moment, including Odell, including Ramsey. I can't think of any of the other guys, but those are two big guys out. They still have Donald, but I don't care. I think this match, and Tyler Lockett just went on COVID list today. I think this matchup is going to come down to Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf. Whoever has the bigger game is going to win the game for their team, and I'm going to take DK Metcalf this week. Russell Wilson is playing better. Seahawks defense is playing better. The Rams are really, really short at the moment. I'm going to go with Seattle over the Rams. I think that's my big one for the week. I'm going to stick to that one on its own.
Man, if you're asking me who's going to have a better game, Cooper Kupp or DK, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to take I kind of like your pick just because how many people are in protocol for Rams. But if it's between Kupp and Metcalf, man, Kupp's been having a hell of a year. Like,
hot take. Right now, Cooper Kupp is my MVP.
Ooh,
he's my MVP. I think he's having the best year of anyone.
No, I mean he's got 12 touchdowns already on the season. I mean he has very few games. I could say below. He has one game under 90 yards, and then probably half of his games he has over 100 yards receiving. Like that's just
he's having
ridiculous,
a ludicrous year. If either him, Jonathan Taylor, or Tom Brady, and I'm not that. I mean, Tom Brady is having by far the best year for quarterbacks. So it's not an outstanding year, and I think Cooper Kupp, in terms of production and impact on his football team, I think Cooper Kupp is probably my MVP.
Yeah. Abe, just one word. You don't have to go into it, or maybe you don't. MVP this season, who do you have?
I was thinking Tom Brady, but after that discussion, I'm definitely going to give Cooper Kupp some thought.
I agree. I mean, I don't remember the last time. When's the last time, or if wide receiver has won MVP in the NFL? Like, I don't even know.
Maybe Jerry Rice, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I couldn't think of one as well. I like the Cooper Kupp thing. That he has had one hell of a season, that's for sure. But moving on, I think we'll just kind of briefly get into this. Just everyone can give their quick thoughts on it. Urban Meyer gets fired by the Jaguars. It finally happens after a terrible season. Lots of random hiccups throughout the season. Him going to clubs and him kicking people seemed to be the end of it for him. Jacob, what's your just statement about Urban Meyer being fired by the Jaguars?
Here's all you have to know about Urban Meyer. In an article I read today, Josh Lambo accused Urban Meyer of calling the special teams players not by their names, by their position. So when he talked to Josh Lambo, he'd call him kicker. He'd say, hey, kicker, punter, long snapper, or call them names. I think that tells you all you need to know about Urban Meyer and who he is as a person. It's about time they canned him.
Mm-hmm. Me personally, I think, I hate, like I said, I loved Urban Meyer when he was in Ohio State, but man, it's just been an awful season. Like I said, there's been so much crap going on there all season long. I think it's about time. I think it's a good move by the Jaguars to get him out of there, start kind of fresh, get someone that the players are more comfortable with, in my opinion. Alex, what do you think?
I'm incredibly sad that Urban Meyer is leaving the Jacksonville Jaguars. The main reason is because the memes have been incredible. So, the one when he was grinding on that chicken, that Ohio bar, that was hilarious for that week. And now we're getting into like the Josh Lambo memes. There's the one where I know where with Shawn Michaels doing the sweet chin music on just the dude in the hallway. That one's pretty funny. There was the one that Jacob sent to the group chat earlier about kind of the Seinfeld bit. And these are funny, and I have been laughing my butt off at all of these.
You got fired because he kicked the kicker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's been Urban Meyer's definitely given us memes all season long. That is 100% true.
My biggest regret is I didn't get to see how big of a dumpster fire this could have turned into.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, Abe, I'm with you on the meme part. Well, I think it's great for the Jaguars organization to finally get rid of Urban Meyer, and I'd like to hope to think that Urban Meyer's done. I don't see any NFL teams hiring him again. Maybe you could see a college. I think his time as coaching is over, though.
One spontaneous thing I want to throw in here. How do you think that Urban Meyer has impacted Trevor Lawrence's development? I was watching them earlier in the year, and I was personally incredibly impressed with Trevor Lawrence in the NFL. I thought he had a lot of talent, but he was raw. And I just wonder if you guys think that he will turn out to be a good franchise quarterback, or if he'll end up being a bust, and what kind of impact Urban Meyer has had on that. He
definitely hasn't had a good impression on him, but you can't ruin a quarterback in 13 games, especially his first 13 games. He'll be fine. Peyton Manning might have had a worse season than Trevor Lawrence did his first year, and you see how he turned out.
Yeah, and I'd like to agree with that. I think if Jacksonville had a different coach, I don't think like magically Trevor Lawrence has a better season. I think moving forward, I think he's going to be a great quarterback. I think he's going to be a star in NFL. I think once he finally gets people around him and they start building around him, I think he will be great. Like we talked about on Monday, I just think it depends on the organization you come into and if your team is ready to win, or if they've already built around you prior to you coming in. I just think that I don't know. I think he'll be good going to the future. I don't think Urban Meyer had as big of an impact on him with the season he's had, but I think moving forward he will be spectacular. He'll get better and better throughout the years.
I agree with that. We'll see what happens next year.
But enough about the lower part of the league. Let's move forward to our AFC and NFC favorites. Okay, so looking forward, as of right now, we have a three-way tie in the NFC. Clearly, the Green Bay Packers come out with the tiebreaker. I believe we also have a three-way tie in the AFC with 9-4 records, and the Patriots come out with that tiebreaker as well. So with 4 games left in the season, let's start off with the NFC. Jacob, I'll let you take over first. Who do you think is going to win the NFC, and who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? None of that. Who do you think when these last 4 games are over, who do you think secures the 1 seed in the NFC?
Even though I think the Packers are the best team in the NFC, I foresee Tampa Bay coming up with the 1 seed. They have a much easier schedule in these last 4 games. They've been playing hot. I don't see any reason why they don't win all 4 of them, and I think the Packers will drop at least 1 of these last 4 games. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to finish number 1.
Alex, you disagree with that at all?
I actually fully agree with that. I would argue that I think you can make a case that the Green Bay Packers will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But given that Tampa's schedule here to finish out the year, I think that they will win all 4 games, and I think that they'll have home field throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and I am going to agree as well. Like I said, the Buccaneers' last 4 games are Saints, Panthers, Jets, Panthers. I think those are 4 easily. I would predict they win all 4. Green Bay has Ravens, Browns, Vikings, Lions, and I could predict. I think they would win 3 of those 4, but I'd see them dropping 1 of them at least. And so Arizona's got Lions this week, which whatever. Then they got the Colts, Cowboys, and then Seahawks to end the season. I honestly think the Cardinals are going to lose 2 of their last 4 games, and I think the Buccaneers are going to come out, and I think they're going to win their last 4 games. They're going to have home field for, like I said, Green Bay I think is the best team, but I think the Buccaneers will secure the 1 seed in the NFC. I'm surprised none of you guys think that maybe one team will lose and the Cowboys will go undefeated all 4 games and secure the 1 seed for the first time in forever for the Cowboys. They're only 1 game behind these guys right now.
Yeah, but you can't catch a team you're behind if Tampa Bay doesn't lose.
Yeah, you got me there.
That's what this comes down to. I don't. What's this Cowboys? Here's the problem: is the Cowboys, they have the Giants who they'll beat. The football team, they had a tight game with them last week. That they could lose that one. They could definitely lose to the Cardinals, and the Eagles also aren't bad. I just don't foresee them winning out. And if the Buccaneers do lose, they're not losing more than 1 game on that schedule.
Yeah, and I agree. And if the Buccaneers do lose 1 game and Green Bay loses 1 game, I'm not sure how the tiebreaker completely works, but I'd assume that the Green Bay would still win that tiebreaker. But I do believe the Buccaneers are going to win out here to end the season. But I think that was a pretty easy one. I think all 3 of us might have a different scenario of who we think is going to win the AFC. So to start this one, like I said, Alex, I'll let you take it over. Right now we have 3 tie between the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Titans. They are all 9-4 right now. So who do you believe is going to come out with the 1 seed in the AFC?
Right now, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are hot, and I think that they will come away with the 1 seed. I do think that New England will lose one of their last 4 games, and I think that Kansas City is tough, and I have a hard time seeing them lose. Although I will say that coming out of the AFC, if Derrick Henry can come back, I like the Tennessee Titans to win the AFC. But that Derrick Henry is a monster, and it's hard to say if he'll come back or not. But I do like the Chiefs to win to get home field to in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a safe pick too, because the Chiefs have won 6 straight, I believe, because they were 3-4. Now they're 9-4. Yeah, so they've won 6 straight games. They're really hot finishing the season. I remember beginning of the season, everyone's just like, "Oh, the Chiefs are figured out. They're not a Super Bowl team anymore." But they've really come around to come here.
Their defense is playing much better is the key. Their offense hasn't gotten any better. Maybe we've gotten a little worse. Their defense is playing much better than they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I think tonight's game against the Chargers, I think, will be the biggest teller. I mean, like I said, they've had some game. They've showed up against other teams, Raiders, a couple times. I mean, they beat the Packers without Aaron Rodgers. They beat the Cowboys. But the Chargers are a tough team tonight. I think how that game shapes out, I think, will have a big impact on the AFC. The last 3 games for the Chiefs are the Steelers, Bengals, and Broncos after tonight's game. But Jacob, do you have any arguments with Alex about that?
I do. I don't think the Chiefs are that good, to be honest with you. I'm not that high on them. And I'm actually going to take the Chargers to finish number 1 in the AFC. They're only a game back at the moment. And if they beat the Chiefs tonight, that'll be a nice win for them. Then they're looking at the Texans, who they'll beat at home versus the Broncos, and then the Raiders to close out the season. I think they can win all 4 of those. And if they do, like I said, it'll depend on how the tiebreakers work, but I'm gonna take the Chargers to come from behind and grab that number 1 seed. They can get hot.
That's an interesting pick. I wouldn't have. I would definitely take the Chargers over thinking the Titans first. Me personally, we're all going to be 3 in different places, and this is once again might be biased for me, but I think the Patriots are going to come out with the 1 seed. I think they are, because they're in a 3-way tie right now. The Patriots wins tiebreaker. I believe because the Patriots' last 4 games are Colts, Bills, Jaguars, Dolphins. I believe that the Patriots are going to win 3 of their last 4 games. I think like I said, I'm with you, Jake. I don't think the Chiefs, they've performed. They've won 6 straight games. I don't think they're not the old Chiefs. So I think they're going to lose 2 of their last 4 games to end the season. The Titans, like I said, without Derrick Henry, it's tough to know who they are. I mean, after Derrick Henry got injured, they won their 2 games back-to-back after he left, but I think the Patriots are going to come out with the 1 seed. That's not saying I think the AFC is going to be a toss-up. I think whoever goes to Super Bowl out of the NFC, I think will win. I know we're not looking forward that far, but I think so. The AFC is just, I think, such a toss-up this year. I don't think there's like one great, like just standout team. I think when we talk about Super Bowl favorites, they're all in the NFC. I mean, maybe you guys disagree with me on that, but
I think because the Titans are going to get Derrick Henry back for the playoffs, I think the Titans are definitely the best team in the AFC when Derrick Henry is playing. When he's not playing, they're bad, but Derrick Henry is important. So as long as he's back and healthy, I mean, I don't see why they couldn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I hope one of these years, because Derrick Henry's with running backs, they're gonna fall off the map at some point. Their career's gonna. I hope he wins MVP before he's done. I hope so.
He would have this year, no doubt. But as a fantasy owner of his, he's not going to. He is still 4th in rushing yards, by the way, after missing the last 4 or 5 games.
That's ridiculous.
That's just what I was going to ask. That's what I thought I was going to ask. I think he's top 4 rushing, and that's insane to me. He's been out. He's missed a lot of time.
I don't know if he's been out 5 or 6 games, but yeah, I mean, he's missed basically at this point half the season, and he's still top 5 in rushing yards. And I think it was number 4 last time I checked.
Who's won? Is it Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I figured. He's having one hell of a season too.
He's by far having the best year by a running back.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's it. Any other comments you guys want to make for the NFL before we move on here?
I don't think so. Let's talk about the Bucs.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the Bucs. This is a topic Jacob and I have argued for ever since the NBA championship. As you guys know, the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship last year over the Phoenix Suns. Jacob and I argue over this because the fact of there was injuries with the Nets. There was injury with the Lakers that they ended up losing in the first round against the Suns, I believe. Granted, you've seen how the Lakers performed this year, but I mean, injuries and all this stuff that happened throughout all playoffs. Jacob and I are split on what we think would have happened if there was no injuries. I know it's part of the game, but without all the injuries, we think different things happen. And before Jacob and I get into it, I think, Alex, we're going to bring you into it to see what you say, what your opinion is before we hop into, because we are completely opposite on it.
This is hard for me just because I feel that injuries are so important that it's hard to play the hypotheticals. The only thing of value that I'll add is you can make a very good argument that if Kyrie Irving was healthy, they would have won that series. They would have won Game 7. And then you could also made a reasonable argument that the Lakers, if healthy, would have gave them a good push out of the East, or out of the West. I mean, but another thing I think to mention is I think if Klay Thompson and Steph Curry were healthy the entire year, I think that the Golden State Warriors would have been probably the best team in the West and probably would have, in my opinion, represented the West last year. And I think that they would have been very difficult to beat. And I think that they'd be a tough matchup, especially Drew Holiday is a very underrated player, and I think that he'd be very good in the backcourt. But I think that the Golden State matches up really well against Milwaukee, and it's all hypothetical, and injuries are a part of the game, of course. But I think that Golden State would have gave the Bucks at least a run for their money, and I think it would have been. Injuries definitely changed the game, but but I do think that the Bucks were definitely beneficiaries of the close back-to-back seasons with the bubble and then the next season and the resulting injuries that occurred between them.
Yeah, and I would like to chime in here, Jacob. I'm sorry, I'll let you go on after it. And like I said, we all know that injuries are part of the game. Like that just happens. That will happen in seasons, and there's no way around those. I also like to state the fact that the Suns played the Clippers in the semifinals, and Kawhi Leonard was out that whole series. In my opinion, I don't think the Bucks win with all these injuries. I think the Nets with Kyrie healthy, and previous to that series, I believe James Harden was injured prior to that, going into that series, leading into that series. I don't think there was a healthy James Harden. Kyrie was injured. I believe the Nets win that series with everyone healthy. I believe the Lakers were the 7th seed against Phoenix. I believe with all of their injuries, I feel like they maybe beat the Phoenix Suns, but in my head, that's not even where it is. I think the Clippers were hot towards the end of last season. They were playing playing well together, and then freaking Kawhi Leonard gets injured. And I'm pretty sure it was in the series against the Jazz he got injured, and Paul George was balling out to end that series, and he's the reason why they end up being the Jazz. But I believe with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both in the game, I think they beat the Suns, and I think the Clippers win the NBA Finals against the Bucks. But like I said, it's very all hypothetical. I know it is, but I don't even know how Jake and I got to arguing about this. But in my opinion, I think there's a handful of teams that would have beaten the Bucks without injury last season, in my opinion. And to go on to Jacob's point, he will disagree with that. And I'm not saying the Bucks weren't good enough to win it. I just think if everyone's healthy, the odds of them actually winning it were a lot lower, and I don't think they win it.
No, they definitely would have. In my very, very humble opinion, I'm going to rule out the Lakers. There's a reason they were the 7 seed. They're not that good. They weren't last year. They aren't this year. LeBron James can't carry a team like he can anymore, and Anthony Davis shrinks under pressure. I mean, it's just that's just the way it is at this point. They're not that competitive. The Suns would have taken care of them just fine. They beat them in game 1 when everyone was healthy. We also got to remember that in the first couple games of that series against the Clippers, Chris Paul was also hurt. So it's not like the Suns weren't dealing with throat injuries. The Suns, I think, were the best team in the West last year. They deserve to be there. And the East was a toss-up. You never knew with, the Nets. The Nets could hit their stride. Maybe they did. Maybe they would have that series with Kyrie. Maybe not. We're still yet to see if those 3 guys can play well together. And the Bucks have kind of proven they can. Giannis has been dominant in the regular season his whole career. They've came just short a couple years in the playoffs. He's not a choker. I mean, he's made it deep, and they lose to Kawhi. I think when Kawhi took the Raptors one, I think they lost in 6 or 7 to the Raptors. I mean, he's not choking and losing in 5 games in the semifinals here. I mean, they added Drew Holiday. They still got Brook Lopez. They got DiVincenzo, good defensive guy, good shooter. I mean, they had all the pieces to win. Giannis is a beast. He's unstoppable. He's a great defender. It's tough to keep him out of the paint. And the reason why I think they beat the Nets anyways, who's going to guard them? I mean, the Nets don't have anyone who can play defense on them, and that's why the Suns were their best matchup is because they have Ayton, and it worked for a couple games. I mean, and I thought the Suns were going that series in 6, but the Bucks came to play and they played better and they won. I mean, I think the Bucks beat the best team in the West and they did it in 6. I don't see any other reason why they wouldn't have gotten there otherwise.
And okay, your point of the Lakers being the 7 seed, they're there for a reason. And like I said, like Alex said, I know it is. It is part of the game, injury. So I'm not trying to say they shouldn't have been a 7 seed, but last season, LeBron James didn't play in 20 games. Anthony Davis didn't play in almost 30 games of the regular season. I think that makes a big impact of the seeding there. I think if they play the whole time during that time, I think they win a lot more games. They get a higher seed. Like I said, though, I know injuries part of the game. That happens. Lakers got the 7 seed. That's what happened. But I do think, to your point about the Lakers, I think they get a better seed if LeBron and AD play most that season.
Yeah, they're making the finals. And this experiment with Russell Westbrook has been a failure. I think they're the 7th or 8th seed in the West, and everyone's healthy. They're not that good. Like I said, I mean, LeBron is still a top 5 or 6 player in the league, but he can't take the 06 Cavs to the finals anymore. He needs more help than what Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook are giving him. And Russell Westbrook hasn't made a single team he's gone to better since he's left the Thunder.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah, the Lakers are the 6th seed right now. They've won 3 straight games. They were 500, and I know they were lower, but they've won 3 straight games. But like I said, I know it's all hypothetical that we're all talking about. The Bucks won. Like I said, they were a good team. I'm not saying they weren't a good team. I just think if Nets were healthy, and I think if Kawhi Leonard plays, I think they beat the Suns. I think the Clippers beat the Bucks is all.
One unpopular opinion that I think I have is I don't think that the Warriors dynasty is over yet. I mentioned earlier, granted, Klay Thompson with the ACL, and then Steph with the broken hand were out all of last season pretty much. But I do think that this year they'll be back, and right now it's hard for me to take anyone else as a favorite to win the NBA championship other than the Golden State Warriors.
No, I'm with you. I don't think the Warriors dynasty is over. I think we're I think we are 4 years away from that. I think the Warriors, the next 3 years, I think they'll compete and they'll be right there as long as Steph and Clay and their main people stay healthy. I don't think they're even close to their dynasty being over, in my opinion. I don't know what. Like, if I had to bet on anyone right now, it would be the Warriors. Look how well they're playing without Klay Thompson. He's not even on the floor, and look how good they're playing.
I'd have to agree with that. I'm not sure they have four years left of this dynasty. They definitely can, but they're going to need to bring in someone other than Clay, Draymond, and Steph at this point. Because I mean, Steph years of scoring this many points a game, being this dominant, are about a year or two out. I'm not saying he can't average 25, but this type of dominance is going to fade at least a little bit, and they need someone else to come in and pick up a little bit of the slack.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they had a lot of other players. They have Jordan Poole, who has stepped up this year, and like I said, who's the rookie they drafted last year? He's not playing either.
Wiseman.
James Wiseman. Yeah, he hasn't played yet this season either. Like, he's been out with injury. I think once they bring him back and they have Klay Thompson back, I think the Warriors are going to be tough, and I think they're going to be. And I don't think. I think like this is the first time in a long time. Like, I don't think there's like a big like super team. You could have argued that the Lakers are a super team, but look how that's gone for them. Like, the Nets, Kyrie hasn't been playing. I don't think I feel like we're finally in a part where there's not like, you still have really good players on teams. Like, I just feel like there's not like one super team where I'm like, wow, this like a bunch of all-stars are on that team. Like, I mean, am I wrong? I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't feel like that this year. It feels like there's a lot of teams that could compete and could win.
Yeah, I'd say the closest thing to a super team would be the Nets, but I mean, outside of those three guys, they're not very deep, and Kyrie's not playing, so.
And who knows if Kyrie will come back and play.
This year, I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't look like he's getting the vaccine anytime soon. I don't foresee any of these restrictions being lifted anytime soon either, so he's going to be out until someone gives, and it's not going to be him.
Yeah, I would like to agree, but. Well, I think that's about all we have for our show today. We'd like to thank Alex Abrahamson for coming on the show and giving us a different outlook or different opinion on the way we look at things. Alex, anything you want to say, finish the show off, or any other comments about any other thing, just words of wisdom, anything you want to say?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to thank you guys for sharing your platform with me. And I'm really looking forward to this college football bowl season. I'm looking forward to show you guys how Utah is a top 4 college football team, and I'm ready for my my YOLO parlay to hit. So again, thank you guys.
Yeah, I know it was fun to have you on as our first guest. Like I said, next week, I believe Monday. Am I wrong, Jake? We have Carson Shooting, center and old center for NDSU, to come on the show. Am I wrong or am I right?
Yeah, we'll have childhood best friend Carson Shooting on Monday. He texted us and he said he had differing opinions on some of the things we talked about. I'm assuming he was talking about our hatred of NDSU. So that'll be a good one. We'll talk about a lot of NDSU football, I think, and a lot of fun stuff. So definitely tune in for that one.
I'm interested to hear what Carson says about what he thinks if NDSU should be pulled up to the FBS or if they should stay FCS. I'm curious about an NDSU player and someone that's been in that program, what he believes about that.
Yeah, I think be a good one.
I think if any NDSU fans are out there and you want to kind of hear from an NDSU guy, I think that next week tune in and we'll bring him in and get his opinion on all that stuff. Like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again. We'll be back next Monday, and stay cool, friends.